Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into this episode of On the Beat, brought to you exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe, a wonderful show where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every single week to talk about those awesome topics surrounding what is now our 6-2 Buffalo Bills. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. Sitting alongside me, that guy right there, former Buffalo Bills offensive tackle John Fina. You know the name, you know the face, you know everything about him, his voice, all the breakdowns he does. You love John Fina, let's just be honest. Please do me and John a favor. Please like, please subscribe. Whatever platform you are consuming this vidcast on live right now, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, please, if you can, like, please subscribe, please tell a friend. And if you were listening to this in post as a podcast on what would be Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, please also do the same. Please like, please subscribe. Again, as Jerry always says, tell a friend, let them know that we exist. But yeah, today, not going to belabor this. Super excited to have back on the program once again for a second appearance, Bills beat reporter from the Batavia Daily News, Alex Brasky. Alex, my man, how does this Tuesday evening find you?
What's up, boys? Good to see you. Good to check in. And it's finding me well so far, but the New York Yankees about to start Game 4 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if the first 3 games are any sign, it's about to go south really, really quickly.
Listen, I need you to pause that, because if I see your eyes wandering and your tension kind of fading, like if they come out with like a 2-run homer in the first, and you're like, oh,
you might see a little dejection or perhaps celebration if we get a Yankees hit before the 8th inning this time around.
Wait
before year's end.
Are reporters, like sports reporters, journalists, allowed to celebrate? Is that legal? Like I thought there was a law against that.
Yeah. I don't cover the Yankees.
There you go. John, how are you this evening?
Terrific, man. Working on fumes, but flew back from Durham this morning. Time change is about to kill me to death. And but other than that, man, still reveling in Victory Tuesday, followed up by Victory Monday and Wednesday tomorrow. Loving it. Loving our Bills.
Yeah, we did the reverse trip. I went from Seattle to Buffalo. You went from North Carolina to Phoenix. So so I'm feeling it too, but mine was from last night. But let's jump right in with Alex. Again, Alex, super grateful to have you on. Thank you so much for your time. We're not going to keep you super long time. We want to get you out in time for the baseball game, and we want to get John out in time for practice. I have no place to go but upstairs. So with that being said, the Buffalo Bills announced today the release of Darrynton Evans. I guess the question we would have is, what is the news you're hearing, or the rumors, if anything, just based around the fact that the Bills already had a roster spot open, I believe, you can correct me there, with Carter having gone to IR last week, and then obviously Vaughn is coming back. But what are you hearing?
Yeah, this is a player I believe they'd like to get back on the practice squad. He's been around in this system for the past couple of years. It was kind of curious that they designated him to return. It didn't seem like there was a path for him on the 53-man roster, barring an injury. Maybe they thought one of those running backs had a chance to go down. Obviously, a position where you see injuries crop up quite often, but the Bills have remained relatively healthy within the running back room. James Cook missed the 1 game, but aside from that, a little knicks-snacks with Ray Davis. But yeah, I believe that this is their second. They used the 2 designated to return, one on Milano, this one on Evans. I believe they have 6 remaining. That was put out there by Sal Capaccio. He follows that stuff much more closely than I do. But yeah, this is a player I think they'd like to get back on the practice squad, veteran player, somebody who could be waiting in the wings if you do have one of those top 3 go down.
Very good. As far as just, have you heard anything in regards to the Bills making another roster move? Bringing another. They're going to have to fill 2 spots, right? Vaughn's coming in. He's going to take 1. So who's taking that last spot?
That's my question. What's going to happen with that other spot?
Yeah, I think there's certainly rumors of Zion Logue maybe on his way out the door. I don't think they've really liked what they've seen from him. He was inactive this past week, I believe. He had Eli Anku called up from the practice squad. He performed pretty well for the Bills' defensive line. A good showing, 1 rushing yard allowed. in that first half. So, yeah, I think Zion Logue might be the next one out the door there. And you get Von Miller back coming in to this pass rushing unit. Greg Rousseau performing as one of the elite pass rushers in the league, leading the league in pressures with Von Miller out. I believe he's in the top 5 in the league throughout the entire season. May not be getting the sack numbers, but certainly the production is there. AJ Epeneza's quietly been producing all year. So Von Miller back in this fold is going to be a big-time boost. He was the leading pressure getter for the Bills before he went out with the suspension. So him and Rousseau opposite one another. That's a dangerous, dangerous situation. And I think you also have to keep maybe your eyes open for a potential Brandon Beane trade to add to that defensive line. I said it even before Carter had that wrist surgery that's going to leave him on IR for at least 4 games. I think defensive tackle, you need somebody in here that can stuff the run. They did a nice job this past week, but that's been a concern for this unit dating back to seasons past. Ed Oliver hasn't really repeated the production he put last year. So I think keep an eye out for maybe a move at defensive tackle. I tweeted today, Brandon Beane needs to make a splash. Splash might be a bit aggressive. I don't know if the Bills are going to bring in anybody splash worthy, but certainly I think another move would behoove the Bills here with the way that other AFC teams are loading up.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Go ahead, John.
Do you look at that need as more of a Daquan Jones 3 technique type figure, or do you think, because I felt like Carter played either one pretty well. So you looking for a 1 technique or a 3 technique?
I think 1 technique. I think you need that one in the middle of it all, stuffing the run and really opening things up for your linebackers as well. With Matt Milano out, Terrell Bernard dealing with the ankle. I know that we're probably going to get to that later. Some dubiousness surrounding his status and whether or not that's a short-term or long-term thing. So I think you need that force in the middle to really open things up for everybody else.
Yeah, Jerry Ostrowski, the third member of our team who is not with us for this episode, says, I say try to find a safety, but we have a pretty good one on the inactive list every single week. His question is will we ever see Mike Edwards? And Mike Edwards, I think, tweeted out or it was in an interview, something, I don't remember. There was something that happened somewhere where he was like, I'm not injured. I don't know why I'm not playing.
Yeah, Alex, why is he not out there? What's going on? You're on the beat, buddy.
Yeah, I saw that he liked a tweet that said he's sick of being on the bench or something like that. So maybe some displeasure there. I'm sure it's frustrating for a player. The Bills brought him in, and from everything that Sean McDermott said, I'm sure they relayed to him that they brought him in to be a starter on this team, and then he sustained the injury in minicamp. Injuries lingered for him during the preseason. He was able to open the regular season rather healthy, but never got going in this system, one that he was albeit familiar with dating back to his previous stops. But I just don't think it ever really meshed well with Mike Edwards in this system. And you had Damar Hamlin waiting in the wings, a semi-veteran player in this system who had plenty of snaps playing under Sean McDermott, Bobby Babbitt. So I think the comfortability there really outweighed anything. And Hamlin's played pretty well. I know he's been a highly polarizing figure on social media. You either love him or you hate him. I think he's played pretty well. It gives the Bills exactly what they're looking for, a solid player in the back end. He's not going to make many mistakes. He's not going to make the big plays, but he knows the system. Like I said, he's usually in the right spot, judging from his 2 interceptions that have really fallen right into his hands. People diminish those plays, but there's something to be said for being in the right place at the right time. And I think Damar Hamlin, that's what he gives you on defense, whereas maybe they're not so comfortable with that with Mike Edwards at this point.
Yeah, I'd be careful. Look, I'd be careful what you say about Damar Hamlin because his dad is hunting. So
yeah.
Just ask our boy Pat Moran.
Exactly.
The comment on that is one of 2 things, right? The harder I work, the luckier I seem to get, or luck is the residue of skill. Yep. So Damar picking up a couple of balls out of the air, it's not just like somebody handed to him while he's standing on the sideline.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, right. There's always the got to catch it, which Rasul Douglas, for example, and this is
Yeah.
not to diss Rasul, but Rasul has had several balls hit him in the hands, and he just hasn't had the ability to bring them in. So the fact that
Right.
DeMar has is great. There's a comment here from Michael who's yelling about it's all in caps. I don't know if he just wants me to see it or what, but it basically, are they going to be able to fix the situational in-game coaching? Which I'm not going to ask that question. To me, what's more intriguing as far as just what's happening right now are the moves that are being made by kind of like the elite AFC teams. When you think of all the wide receivers, and then Kansas City goes out and goes against Uche, which really annoyed me because Uche is a guy that I respect a lot from that Patriots team, and I don't understand why the Patriots are potentially fire sailing guys or other teams are. But do you remember a year where like those 3-4-ish elite teams from one conference are all at some point looking like they're kind of jockeying for position to kind of stay ahead of the other?
No, the trade deadline in the NFL is turning into the NBA, the NHL, and
Right.
somewhat the MLB trade deadline, where you're really seeing these teams stock up for the stretch run. And we've seen it in the past how much one player can make a difference on a Super Bowl winning team. I saw Odell Beckham make a difference for the Rams. I know he went out with the injury, but he made a huge difference for them that year that they got him. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out in Baltimore, whether or not who was it today? Deontay Johnson is going to be able to step in there and contribute. You've seen mixed results from Amari Cooper in his first 2 weeks on the Bills. I think he's making a difference beyond the numbers. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I think there's a lot left to be seen for these moves. What did DeAndre Hopkins do for the Chiefs this past week? I didn't see. I saw that he made at least one catch. They tweeted it out.
I think he had 4 targets, 2 for 26 or 2 for 28 or something like that on 4 targets. I thought was the number. Yeah.
So I think it takes a little while to get these guys involved. So I think as the season goes, maybe you see more from a Hopkins, from maybe even a Devontae Adams in the New York Jets mess. But it's turning into the wild, wild west and somewhat like the NBA and NHL. And it's really exciting for the fans. It just gives them another time of year to talk about the NFL. It seems like there's no shortage of those periods throughout the calendar.
DeAndre Hopkins, 2 catches, 29 yards, 14.5 average, long of 16 targets, 3.
Oh, I was off on that one. Gotcha. Yeah, it seems like Baker Mayfield goes in and changes the playing field for everybody as it pertains to traded in a week, plays, starts, and what happens, right? Last year when he got traded to the Rams, I think it was last year, the year before, and he went out and actually won a football game as a quarterback. But it definitely takes some time, regardless of, and John can tell you, so can Jerry, how much football is football is football. It's just terminology and just different things like that. But we'll see what happens with all of these guys. Before we get into, I've got a couple kind of points or conversational stuff about Amari Cooper. Injuries real quick. So right now the Buffalo Bills, clearly the biggest injury we have on this football team right now is Terrell Bernard and Curtis Samuel to a point. Just wondering if we've heard anything on there, what we're expecting this week to see from just some of that injury, the existing injury report list.
Yeah, like I said, there's some concern, I think, with Terrell Bernard's injury, just based on the fact that we didn't see him at practice, excused due to personal reasons. And I think there were some rumblings that he perhaps was getting a second opinion on that ankle. I know our friends Banged Up Bills thigh doctor on Twitter might be a little bit more in tune to the injury side of things, but
our guy as well, Dr. Brad Bowen, said that the fact he wasn't there was very, very much a sign that he more than likely is flying around the country to get a second opinion.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave.
You're good. You're good.
We have yet to connect. To connect.
Yeah, no worries.
So, which direction do you look at that? Do you think the Bills are telling him you're going to be fine, and he's like, I want the straight story because he doesn't feel like he's recovering? Any insight on that side of it? Right? I mean, there's 2 ways to play it. Like he might, they might be trying to push him, and he might be saying, "Hey, you know what? I don't think your diagnosis is correct."
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but just based on following this team, I would think it would be the other way around. I would think maybe they'd be trying to hold him out, and he'd be trying to prove to them that he'd be able to go. Ankles, those can be tricky, John. I'm sure you much better than me. The low ankle not as severe as the high ankle. I know there's a lot more fear for re-injury and that injury lingering if it is a high ankle. So and there's a lot of bones in there that I'm not familiar with. So but if you were to ask me, just based on following the team and their history with injuries, I would say they're trying to take it slow with Bernard, whereas he's a young player trying to prove his worth in this league, and these injuries are starting to stack up this season. And at some point, I think he's just got to, I don't want to say fight through this, but he's got to find a way to stay on the field, I guess, as an undersized linebacker. And I think if you start to get that stigma of an injury-prone player, that can affect you down the road when it comes time for your second contract.
Yeah, for sure. We looks like we came out of the game on Sunday against the Seahawks relatively unscathed. I was at the game. Jerry and John were actually watching it in the post-game show. They said that Amari Cooper kind of came off the field a little bit nicked with his shoulder. Unsure if you've heard anything. I know the coach was asked yesterday, and he said that they'll wait and kind of like get into that on a Wednesday, which is always fun. But as rumors go and as talk goes, have you heard anything about Amari? Have you heard anything about anybody else? And yes or no is a fine response.
I have not. We talked to Sean McDermott on yesterday, and he said he didn't have any updates. We'll get some on Wednesday. And sorry, my attention was averted. Freddie Freeman for the Los Angeles Dodgers is turning into one of my most hated athletes on this planet. I respect him so much. He's a great player. He plays the game the right way, but he absolutely kills the Yankees. That's his, I think, third home run of the series. Jerry is taunting me from the clouds. This is incredible. My God.
Well, you do know that like TV is no longer watched on a set in a room. It's now up in the cloud. You know that.
Oh, there you go. But,
sorry, got political there for a moment.
I don't share all of your pain on this, Alex. I grew up a Yankees fan for some reason, just because my parents are from New York State. So I was like, I guess I'm a Yankees fan. And then, visit all my family once I get drafted by the Bills, who still live in Rochester, as you know, and come to find out they're all Red Sox fans. I'm like, I can't give them up now, and I'm certainly not going to the freaking Red Sox.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical. So 2 weeks ago, talk with Alex Brasky, Bills beat reporter from the Batavia Daily News. 2 weeks ago, as we know, we talked about a second ago, kind of just barely breathed into it. Just Amari Cooper coming into this football team, obviously the first week, 4 catches, had the touchdown. This past week wasn't quite as productive. He was active. He was in the crowd. It was great when he did catch when he had his one reception. The crowd, you heard the crowd yell "Coop." I watched it back on the television and heard it last night on the plane, which was fun. Talk about, just from what you're seeing, and what your feeling is, his presence, besides the production that should come, how he's affecting this offense.
Yeah, the first week, obviously the production was there, 4 receptions. You mentioned the touchdown. This past week, production not there, but I think the attention he's taking away from some of these other targets is apparent. He wasn't on the field for any of Keon Coleman's targets during his 100-yard game 2 weeks ago, but I just think his overall presence on the field is forcing defenses, obviously, to account for him, and it's making things more difficult. When you have an established player like that who can win one-on-one battles, didn't win the one on Josh Allen's lone interception of the season, kind of slipped on the play, wasn't able to fight back for the catch, and it turned out to be a pick. So, but yeah, I think that's the biggest impact that he's going to have throughout this season. I don't think you're going to see the game-by-game 100-yard games, touchdowns. It was nice to see it in his first game, but I just think simply the attention he's taking away from not only Keon Coleman, but Dalton Kincaid, who you've seen really come on strong these past 2 weeks. Last game, this past weekend, I thought he started the game really strong, and I was writing in my 5 takeaways. I was getting ready to write that this was another 50-plus yard game, and he really controlled the action. He slowed down. He only ended up with a few catches for 31 yards. He had the touchdown, but I think he's starting to make an impact and make the big plays that you need from a player like this in this offense. So Amari Cooper coming in, taking the attention away from some of these other targets, and it's only going to help James Cook in the backfield as well. His first 100-yard game of the season this past week.
I was actually going to dovetail right into that. I think the way the Bills are running the ball now just invariably has to open up the passing tree quite a bit. you just get caught betwixt and between. What's your take on Joe Brady and how he's sort of balancing that now that you've added Amari Cooper, and now our wide receiver room is kind of like some dudes and our running back room is some dudes? What do you think of the balance?
Yeah, something that got lost for me in this game was Khalil Shakir and how impactful he was. I was doing my recap, and I wrote out Coleman and Kincaid were really coming on strong, and I kind of missed that Shakir had his 100-yard game, and he's so under the radar the way that he makes plays. And you mentioned Joe Brady. His utilization with Shakir in the screen game this past week, I think, worked wonders for the Bills. They got him the ball in space, and that yard after catch ability that Shakir has become known for, just pouncing off defenders and weaseling his way through into the secondary was quite impressive. So, the balance is certainly helping them, giving defenses something else to think about. I think they had, don't quote me on this, I think it was 30 and 30 pass rush this past game, something like that. It was equal. It was 50-50 right down the middle. So that's kind of what you strive for is that balance, especially that's what Sean McDermott has been talking about these past several years. And you finally have that strong running back room. I think the best running back room under Sean McDermott, and perhaps the best running back room in the league. They all three of them scored against the Titans. Ray Davis continues to come on strong in his rookie season. So the balance is there. And then Shakir just gives you that balance within that pass catching core, what he's able to do with those short receptions, and run after the catch.
I feel like the Ralph Wilson's former team that he used to own or partially own would have an argument in that best running back room in the league with Gibbs and Montgomery, who are running like just a couple of machines. It's interesting because what we saw from Josh Allen, if we could get that offense, and I know that, and John and Jerry will be the first ones to tell you this, that every week is a different challenge, every matchup is a different challenge, and it poses different issues that you have to deal with. But we watched a strong running game, down blocking, like going downhill as far as the offensive line, and Josh Allen willing to take the underneath easy stuff and then hitting the deep guys or the intermediate guys when they're open. What was your just kind of take from what you watched out of Josh Allen in general this week? Because it looked like that's what we need every week. Give us that.
Absolutely. And I think dialing up those screen plays, getting him that easy yardage, I think also helps him stay under control. And it's like anything. When you want something so badly, and in this case, you want to score a touchdown every drive, and if down by down you're not getting those easy yards, you become anxious. You become you overdo it a little bit, and I think that's what Josh Allen. That's where he gets himself in trouble. Maybe when things aren't going as smoothly as he wants, and he just wants to go for it all on one play. But if you dial up those screenplays, if you dial up those, as my podcast partner AJ Cebulski always calls those easy button receptions in the offense, I think that's only going to help Josh Allen move forward with this new, more conservative pass style I think he's exhibited this season. Obviously only the one interception, but like you said, taking the easy throws, taking the layups, and allowing his receivers to run after the catch. Shakir is not only a yak god, Keon Coleman is turning into a yak god as well. So it helps when you have the personnel to facilitate that style of play.
Yeah, for sure. The Buffalo Bills are 6-2, 2 quarters of the season effectively done. 2 quarters, obviously, there's an extra game with the 17th. Bills' next 4 opponents, the Dolphins, Colts, Chiefs, and then after the bye, the San Francisco 49ers at home. Who's your first half of the season MVP for this team?
Yeah, I just did this. I'm glad you asked me for Bills Digest, our midseason review issue coming out next week. So be sure to get your hands on that. But you asked me MVP, right? Josh Allen is my MVP. I did our midseason awards. So MVP, offensive player, defensive player, and everything like that. Josh Allen is the obvious MVP. Not only for this team, I think he's the MVP of the league at this point. What he's able to do with his arms, what he's able to do with his legs. And if you look at how the talking heads viewed him and this team to begin the season, didn't think they had enough in the receiving core, the changes on the offensive line. Were the Bills good enough to even win the division? And they're sitting at 6-2, one of the best offenses in the league, scoring at a high rate, moving the ball, and it's all on Josh Allen. Not as much as it has been in past years. We mentioned the running game, but he's still putting up those numbers and putting up just MVP level performances week in and week out. 70% completion this past week, just elite level play from Josh Allen. I think he's the MVP of the league right now.
Super good. John, anything to dovetail off of that or no?
No, I
love that word, dovetail.
I use it all the
great
time.
word. I gotta use it more.
It's John's
I have to say, it's nice that he's getting the recognition that I feel he deserves without having to put up the 400-yard game, the 350-yard game, but being recognized for the completion percentage, the outcome, the quality of the throws, but also the quality of the decision making, outside of a couple of games and a couple of situations. I hope that your opinion spreads far and wide is all I'm really driving at.
Yeah,
you and me both, brother. I hope I reach Kazakhstan out there, Bills Mafia Kazakhstan. Just the Brasky opinion, far and wide.
Love it.
I got mentioned. I've arrived. I've been in Bills Mafia Kazakhstan, so I'm hanging it up, Joe. I'm done. I'm out of here.
That's funny. Talking with Alex Brasky from the Buffalo or the Batavia Daily News.
And one more thing with Josh Allen, something else that's helped is he's gotten a lot of breaks this year. He's thrown a fair share of passes that you would think have a good chance to be intercepted. They haven't been. He's fumbled the ball around. His teammates have been able to fall on it. The kick ball ahead to Ty Johnson for the first down. The nice through ball there, as my buddy AJ Sobolski called it on Twitter. So that helps as well. And sometimes in sports, it helps more to be lucky than good. Josh Allen is obviously both this year.
Yep, for sure. Got one more question for you before we get you out of here, but do us a favor. Tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, all your socials, and all your work and all that good stuff too.
Yeah, at Alex Brasky on social media, and you can follow my work on the dailynewsonline.com for the Batavia Daily News, and also billsdigest.com. Make sure to subscribe. And lastly, the Right Here, Right Now podcast with AJ Sobolski, available on YouTube, all your audio platforms. It's been a good start for us this year, trying to increase the viewership on YouTube. We've had a great response in terms of the audio listenership and when we go live on Twitter, but trying to get that YouTube following up. So search Right Here, Right Now podcast or go to the Daily News YouTube and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Former fellow Buffalo Rumblings member AJ Sobolski, but along with me and John and Jerry. But last question for you: the Buffalo Bills are facing a desperate team in the Dolphins. A lot of people, media pundits, are effectively saying their season is over. And you asked Coach just about Tua and his return, and I'm kind of curious what you were. I'm not sure you got the answer from Coach that you were looking for, but where were you driving at? What were you looking for from Coach, real quick, on that, as far as when you asked him what his expectations were from Tua this week?
Yeah, just trying to get a comment from Coach and really his perspective on what Tua's gone through. I know that McDermott's never going to go that deep when he's talking about another player, particularly an injured player, but just showed his respect for Tua and like I said, what he's gone through with the concussions. It had to have been a tough decision for him to come back, and one that I think people only see the health side in terms of the physical health, but mental health is also a big part for these athletes and everybody for that matter. And if you're not able to do what you love, sometimes life isn't as worth living. So I think you have to weigh both your physical health and your mental health in this situation. And obviously Tua made what he feels is the best decision for him. But you saw this past week, things didn't work out so well for the Dolphins in his return. I'm sure maybe a little bit of rust there between him, Tyreek Hill, and his other receivers. Maybe they get things together a bit better this week. But
hope not.
Yeah. Well, then again, if you look back at the Bills-Dolphins first matchup, that's really did not go well for the Dolphins either. So it's going to take a heroic effort from Tua and the Dolphins to compete in this one. I got the Bills by a bunch.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Alex Brasky from the Batavia Daily News, Buffalo Bills beat reporter. My name is Joe Miller, and that over there is John Fina. For me, for John, for Jerry, we appreciate you guys joining us tomorrow night. The Hump Day Hotline, Thursday, the Big O Show with Jerry Ostrowski, your first look, your first preview of the Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins game. But we love you guys. We appreciate you. For all of us here at Overreaction, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.